the President of the Council of Leyte of the Philippines, Ed. Alam niyo, ako'y tuntua na nandito sa campus ng Adamson University, one of the most beautiful campuses in the Philippines. And of course, so replete with history itong mga buildings na ito. Here, which used to be St. Teresa, if I'm not mistaken, and on the other side, the old Adamson, plus the beautiful church, San Marcelino, an old part of Manila. I used to work very close to this place when I was Postmaster General of the Philippines. Medyo malapit-lapit dito. Kaya tuwan-tuwa ako nang maimbitahan para magsalita sa inyo. Baka meron iba sa inyo nagulat na ako'y naka-purple. Supposedly the color of the other side, but that is not so. I've been wearing this color since 1992, almost 20 years. And the reason I adopted this color as my political color is because of the religious implication. I think we are all aware that violet, for hundreds of years, probably 2,000 years, is the color of Advent, which is the onset of Christmas, and the color of Lent, both very deep and very strong religious seasons of the world of Christianity, the world of Catholics. At the same time, one very closely affiliated group, the Knights of Columbus, yung isa sa mga ranking members ng Knights of Columbus, wears violet. Again, another religious manifestation. And more so, it is the color of the Supreme Court, it is the color of the IBP, it is the color of Kerridge's Purple Heart, which is closely connected with where I come from, and so many other symbolisms that are deeply religious. Kaya huwag po tayong pumayag na i-co-opt nila itong kulay natin, na isa sa mga mahalagang kulay ng simbahan. Huwag po tayong po. Sila bago pa lamang dito sa mundong ito. Tayo, 2,000 taon na dito sa mundong ito. Sila po ay bago lamang. Yan ang dapat na ipaalala natin sa kanila. I was asked to give a briefing and a situationer on the Republic, on the RH bill, Reproductive Health Bill. And I'd like to do this very quickly. House Bill number 96. Right now, it is in the period of interpellation. Kasi ang bill, as most of you are very well aware of, merong committee level. Pagkatapos ng committee, it goes to plenary. And in plenary, there is the period of sponsorship when the principal authors as well as the one in charge of the committee will deliver sponsorship speeches. And then it will be the period of debate and interpellation when those who are either curious or who are opposing would pose a lot of questions. There are roughly about 50 members of the House of Representatives who have manifested their desire to interpellate. And one interpellation may last 1 hour, maybe more, depending on the situation. And so far, not more than 10 have completed their interpellation. If there will be no forcible suppression of debate, and I would like to emphasize forcible suppression of debate, if there will be free debate, it will take maybe about 2 years to complete the interpellation by about 50 members of the House of Representatives. Kaya kung hindi puwersa nito, matatagalan ho ito at baka hindi na umabot ng period of amendment, and more so the plenary vote on the bill. At the same time, I would like to also report to you that the author, Congressman Lagman, has already refused to be interpellated by one of the most eloquent interpellators in the House, a leading constitutionalist, Congressman Pabling Garcia. Mukhang hindi niya kaya ang lakas ng kaalaman ni Congressman Garcia. Kaya he refused to be interpellated further after being caught in so many difficult situations during the period of interpellation. He also has refused to be interpellated by this representation. I think he was aware that I had some bombshells in my interpellation. For example, I wanted to pose a very direct question to him, and only he could really answer this. And this is why he deceived the Filipino people by issuing a press statement announcing that his House bill was House Bill number 3, when in fact it is House Bill number 96. And you know, the reason why some people would like to have a low-numbered House bill is siyempre para ibig sabihin, nauna siya. When in fact, hindi siya nauna. Nauna ang House Bill number 13, which is my House bill on the protection of the unborn. But for some reason, I cannot understand, and he refused to answer this. Why he issued a press statement, and this press statement was carried by media, why he said that his House bill, RH bill, was House Bill number 3, when in fact it is House Bill number 96. Some people might say, hindi mas siguro importante yan. Importante po, sapagkat yung mas mababa, yung author na mas mababang House bill, ang siyang lalabas na principal author. And you know, legislation is to a lot of extent authorship. Parang kung ikaw daw na, ikaw dapat ang author. And of course, even in the chain of events that would normally be associated with the process of legislation, siyempre, yung mas mababang House bill number ang siyang dapat na mauna. Kaya hindi po niya masagot yan, and I think that was one of the reasons why he refused to be interpellated by me. Of course, the other issues would be the facts that I was going to present with respect to maternal mortality, with respect to demography, with respect to the economy. He had a sample of that. During the period of interpellation in the last Congress, ako po ang isa sa pinakamahabang nag-interpellate nung last Congress, at natapos ang interpellation, ako pa rin ang nag-interpellate. Now, doon naman of course, ayaw niya makipagdebate sa akin, ayaw niya makipagdebate kay Congressman Pabling Garcia, pero nakipagdebate siya kay Congressman Pacquiao. Sabi niya, hindi daw siya tatakbo. Alam niyo ang nangyari? During the interpellation, minalit niya si Congressman Pacquiao. There was that portion where he said, Congressman, yung tinatanong mo, na-amyenda na yan. Congressman Pacquiao was asking about a provision in the reproductive health bill that would mandate employers to issue contraceptives and condoms, etc., etc. Tinanong ni Congressman Pacquiao, hindi ho ba baka makawawa yung mga employers dyan, ang mga empleyado dyan? Kasi baka mamaya singilin sila ng mga employers, tapos tutubo pa yung mga employers dito sa mga empleyado. Ang sagot ni Congressman Pacquiao, ni Congressman Lagman, kayo po kasi busy kayo na nag-iensayo para sa laban nyo kay sino ba yung nakalaban niya? Margarito, busy kayo. Hindi, isa pa, yung tumakbo. Busy kayo sa pag-iensayo, kaya hindi nyo alam na amyenda na po yan. And then Congressman Pacquiao said, paano na amyenda yan? Wala pa sa period of amendment. Na TKO po si Congressman Lagman ni Congressman Pacquiao. Technical lockout, pagsisinungaling po yung ginawa ni Congressman Lagman nung sinabi niya na yan ay naamyenda na. Meron silang proposal, but you know, it takes a period of amendment, a formal submission of an amendment during the period of amendment and approval of plenary for a bill to be amended. Kaya tinangka niyang lokohin si Congressman Pacquiao, pero na-TKO po siya ni Congressman Pacquiao. Now, what are the strong points of those who have been arguing against the RH bill? May I cite them? Number one, on the economy. We have been able to show statistics that there is no correlation between the level of economic development and population, and more so population density. Kasi parati nila sinasabi, naghihirap ang bansa dahil masyadong malaki ang ating populasyon. And of course, we all know that population is measured not only by the size of the population, but population density. At doon pinakita namin in an unrebuttable presentation na ang daming mga bansa sa paligid natin, mas malaki pa ang population density kaysa sa atin. For example, Korea, Taiwan, and more so Hong Kong, Singapore, Macau, na ang laki ng population density, but in spite of that, they are much more developed than the Philippines. At ang sabi natin, ang dahilan kung bakit maganda ang level of development nila is because of correct economic strategy and correct leadership. Yun po ang hindi nila masagot. The other one is demographic. Pag sinabi natin demographic, yung populasyon talaga. Ano ba talaga ang ating growth rate? The latest NSO na hindi pa officially pero ito binigay na sa amin is 1.94. But of course, the latest official is 2.05. And it is very clear that our population growth rate, as presented by us, has been declining very significantly over the years. About 30 years ago, it was 3%. And of course, the latest official is about 2.05%. In other words, nagkakaroon na ng population growth decline even without RH. Kaya ang posisyon namin, hindi po kailangan ng RH para magkaroon ng population decline. At lalo na po, nung pinakita ko ito during a talk show, talagang hindi matanggap ito ni Congressman Lagman. Nung pinakita ko na kahit na ang ating population growth rate average for the entire country was 2.05%. Pag inisa-isa mo, yung mga region, Region 1, for example, is a little over 1%. Region 2 is a little over 1%. Medyo mataas ang Central Luzon because of migration, especially in Bulacan, in Pampanga, and in Zambales, Subic, and Clark. Metro Manila, medyo mataas ng konti because of migration. Same with Southern Tagalog, Calabarzon, because of migration. But all the others, including the region of the principal author, Bicol is about 1.2%. And so on and so forth. Ang nagpapataas lang yung mga lugar na mayroong migration at yung ARMM area na umaabot ng mga 5% ang growth rate. So pinakita namin doon na wala pong population growth rate problem in majority of the regions of the country. Kaya siguro kung meron siyang gustong population program, ang target niya yung mga lugar na meron talagang intrinsic, inherent population growth rate problem, not because of migration, but because of actual birth rate. Pero iilan lang yung mga probinsya na yan, iilan lang yung mga rehiyon na yan. Another one is we showed that right now there are many countries that implemented a very harsh and very strict population control program, but now they are suffering. Ano po yung mga bansang yan? Russia, for example. Russia is now reversing their population control policy. In fact, President Medvedev and Prime Minister Putin already issued statements giving incentives to Russian families if they will have a family of 3 or more children, including free land. China is now reviewing their one-child policy. South Korea has allocated about $60 billion over a 5-year period in order to reverse their population program. Japan is suffering right now because of an aging population. Western Europe is in dire straits because of their past population policy, including yung zero population growth nila. And India, a very noted Indian businessman, a multi-billionaire Indian businessman, Nandan Nilekani, issued a very strong statement in his lectures all over the world, in London School of Economics, in Harvard, when he said, today, we don't anymore look at our large population as a liability, but as an asset. Kaya naman, marami pong mga projections ngayon na nagsasabi na dahilan sa ang China, aging ang population. Pasensya na po sa mga senior citizens dito sa sinasabi ko yan, but these are economists talking. Ang China ngayon, kukunti na lang ang mga batang populasyon nila. Not like India, which has a very strong young workforce of about 300 million. Kaya ngayon, marami pong mga economists, mga world-class economists are projecting that in about 10 to 15 years, India is going to overtake China economically because of their strong labor force. Kaya malaking bagay ho yan. Hindi po si Roy Lugoles ang nagsasabi niyan. At yan ay pinipresenta namin hindi lamang sa mga forum, kundi sa mga debate sa Kamara de Representantes. The other one is the medical aspect. Imagine, we have been saying, and I think this is something that all of us should be using, the medical aspect, especially the medical finding that the oral contraceptives may increase the risk of breast cancer. Sinabi ng UK Research ng Cancer Institute, ng Harvard, ng United States Cancer Institute, at itong bandang huli, mismong si former Health Secretary Cabral mentioned this when she admitted that indeed oral contraceptives increase the risk of breast cancer. So please take note of that. Mismong si Secretary Cabral ang nagsabi, and we all know that Secretary Cabral is one of those who are very much pro-RH. Pero sabi niya, but sabi niya meron siyang but totoo na ang oral contraceptives nakakapagdagdag ng risk ng breast cancer, pero kayo mag-aalala, magiging healthy naman ang liver ninyo. Ang sabi ko, ano naman ang gagawin ng isang batang babae, isang 30-year-old young housewife na healthy ang liver niya, pero ang bigat ng problema niya sa breast cancer. Hindi po ba? Doon medyo nagulat ako. Ngayon po, siguro kung meron ng liver problem yung babae, it's a matter of life and death. At baka makatulong sa kanya yung oral contraceptives, probably. Kasi siyempre, anyone who has a serious health problem will take any kind of medication, notwithstanding the side effects. Yeah. The other one is the legal aspect. Alam nyo, ang dami pong features na dinagdag nila dito sa Reproductive Health Bill. If you compare the Reproductive Health Bill with the original Reproductive Health Bill, maraming dinagdag. And you know why? Because they tried to inject some sweeteners into the Reproductive Health Bill. Ano siya sabi sweeteners? Siyempre ka naman, if you're concerned about breastfeeding, andun meron. If you're concerned about maternal health care, it's there. If you're concerned about sex education, it's there. If you're concerned about urinary tract infection, it's there. If you're concerned about STD, it's there. Ang dami pong lahat nandun, including violence against women, but we emphasized this already. In fact, this was part of my interpellation. When I started my interpellation with another member of the RH group answering my interpellation, I showed very clearly that a lot, in fact, all of them were almost verbatim copies of an already existing law, Republic Act 9710. This is the Magna Carta for women. Ginawa nila that bitter pill, that toxic pill, they wrapped it with sweeteners to make it more palatable. Para nga naman, pag nagsasabi siya, ang dami pong naluloko mga tao, sabi nila, gusto ko po yung RH bill na yan kasi maganda yung tungkol sa breastfeeding. But it's there already in an existing law. Maganda po yan kasi magkakaroon ng magandang prenatal care. But it's already there in Republic Act 9710, and if you really want to improve the prenatal care, the maternal health care, and infant health care, all you need to do is give more budget to the Department of Health and maybe the Pabelia Hospital. and other maternal care centers all over the country. There's no need for an RH bill. Yun po, klaro-klaro na yan ay pinisinta namin, na yan ay hindi rin masagot nung kabila. Now, we also discovered another statement. This was a statement made by Secretary Cabral again, sometime in March 2010. Medyo patapos na ang termino ng PGMA administration ng panahon na yun, but she was still very much in the thick of the fight in favor of RH. But there, she made a very puzzling statement with regard to the effectiveness of condom. Ito po ang dapat malaman ng tao. Siya mismo nagsabi, sabi niya, ang condom, and there is a Manila Bulletin article to validate this as evidence. Ang sabi niya, sa AIDS, condoms are only 85% efficient in preventing AIDS. And pregnancy, condoms are only 95% efficient. Well, siguro sa unang tingin, parang wow, 85%. Sa eskwelahan, pag 85%, mataas na grado yan. Sa eskwelahan, pag 95%, ang taas na grado, valedictorian ka na. But mind you, if you look at probability and statistics, pag yan po ay ihahambing natin, halimbawa sa aksidente, let's say air transportation, ang ibig sabihin, pag 85% efficient, ano ang failure rate? 15%. Pag meron pong lumilipad na aeroplano na 15% ang failure rate, ibig sabihin, sa bawat 100 na pag-take off ng aeroplano, 100 biyahe ng aeroplano, 15 ang magka-crash. There are more than 100 flights every day in the Philippines, coming from Cebu, coming from Manila. And if that is the case, if there would be 15 crashes every day, wala kang babasahin sa dyaryo araw-araw, kundi mga plane crash. And even if it's only 5% failure rate for pregnancy, 95%, ang sabi niya, efficiency sa pregnancy, meron pa rin 5% failure rate. 5% is 1 out of 20, ang 5% po. 1 out of 20 flights, bumabagsak. 1 out of 20 trips mo, ma-aksidente ka. That is something that must be explained by those who are saying that condom is sufficient. What I'm saying is that this must be explained to the people instead of giving them a false sense of security with respect to AIDS and with respect to pregnancy. Ito po mga bagay nito ay dapat iklaro ng mga nagpo-propose ng pagbili ng mga 3 billion pesos worth of condoms. Constitutional. Well, ito ang constitutional. Again, kaya siguro hindi na ayaw makipagdebate kay Congressman Pabling Garcia, because Congressman Pabling Garcia is a more noted constitutionalist than the author of House Bill number 96. Ano ang sinabi ng ating konstitusyon that the unborn must be protected from the moment of conception. That is in the Constitution. Ito po, importante ito. And what is conception as defined by those who framed the Philippine Constitution of 1987? No less than former Supreme Court Justice Artemio Panganiban said that conception means fertilization. No less than Father Bernas said that conception means fertilization. But the proponents of RH are saying that it is implantation and not fertilization. Kaya yung 5, 6, or 7 day gap na yan ang pinaglalaban nila kasi kung ma-define, and it is my considered belief, not just me, but by the leading constitutionalists, that conception means fertilization, then a lot of oral contraceptives and IUD would be considered abortifacients and therefore not only illegal but also unconstitutional. Kaya pinagpipilitan na ang implantation. In fact, yung gynecological and Obstetrical Society of the United States redefined that sometime in the 60s. Implantation. But before that, it was always fertilization. In fact, when I studied biology in high school, pag sinabing conception, it is fertilization. If you look at the leading medical journals, if you look at the leading medical websites, a lot of these websites define conception as fertilization. Now, ito isa pinipresente namin, that the president of the American Obstetrical and Gynecological Society admitted after about 30 years that the main reason why they redefined this is in order to allow the propagation of the IUD. Kasi pag hindi, magiging abortifacient, magiging abortionist ka kasi pinapatay yung fertilized egg ng IUD. Doon naman sa mga debate, alam niyo parating pinagmamalaki noong kabila na meron daw SWS survey, meron daw Pulse Asia survey na nagsasabi that majority of the Filipino people are in favor of reproductive health bill, of the reproductive health bill. But let me tell you this, yun namang mga survey na yan, pinag-aralan namin. Paano ba nila tinanong yung mga survey? Tinanong nila, nabasa mo na ba yung RH bill? Majority said no. Pero kada sinabi nilang no, nagtanong pa rin sila, are you in favor of the RH bill? How can anyone who has not read the RH bill express his or her opinion on a bill that he has not read? Pero in spite of that, pero pinaliwanag naman ng SWS, ang sabi daw, yung daw nag-survey, pinaliwanag sa respondent yung RH bill. How can that surveyor explain the RH bill in a few minutes when even us legislators, it will take us hours to explain the very grave ramifications of the RH bill? Kung ano yung direksyon nung kanyang pagpaliwanag. Baka na yung pagpaliwanag niya ay pabor sa RH. E di siyempre, pag ganon, may influence niya yung desisyon ng tao pagdating sa survey. Kaya, that is a very unreliable survey. The best survey is the one where we participated in the debate, harapan, doon po sa ANC Channel 2. Doon, 2 oras kami nagbalik-taktakan. Pinaliwanag namin ang side namin. We talked about demographics, we talked about health aspects, medical aspects, kabila, ganun din. Kampante sila, akala nila, lamang na lamang sila because yung TV station, parang ang tingin nila, may killing in favor of RH bill. Pero nung lumabas yung boto ng mga tao, and there were thousands and thousands, I understand there were about 20,000 who voted by texting. Alam niyo kung anong boto? 69% against 31% against RH. So, makikita natin, pag pinapaliwanag, nakikita ng mga tao na, ay, ganun pala yan. Akala namin, magtuturo lang ng reproductive health. Akala namin about maternal health care yan. Yung pala, gagasta pala ng ilang bilyong piso para bumili ng contraceptives at ng mga condom. Yung mga oral contraceptives pala, questionable pala pagdating sa carcinogenic effect. So yan po mga bagay na dapat ipaliwanag natin. Ang media support naman, you know, we had a resource person, I forget his name now, in the pro-life movement. This was in the Pope Pius Center, an American, and he spoke about media in relation to their stand on RH. And he explained it very clearly. Sabi niya, you know, media by definition is liberal. The members of media are liberal, and normally those who are inclined towards liberal ideas are people who are also inclined towards reproductive health. And in fact, in the most extreme, inclined towards abortion. Kaya sabi nga niya, this American expert said, so you cannot expect that media will be against RH. They will be in general in favor of RH. But that we have to accept, and we have to adjust to that. But what I find very bothersome is the degree of anti-Catholic and anti-church statements that are now proliferating. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was almost impossible for anyone to be writing like that against a bishop, even against our religion. And I find that a very disturbing development, that there seems to be a systematic program of bashing the church and the leaders of the church. So this is something that we must address. Responsibility natin na dapat gumawa tayo ng mga bagay-bagay para ma-counter natin itong pagbabas sa ating simbahan. Now, public support. Paano ba ang gagawin natin ngayon? Kasi alam nyo, ang debate na ito importante sa Kamara de Representantes at sa Senado. But we also need public support. Congressmen who are in favor of RH, parang nakikita nila meron mga support kasi may nakikita sila mga nagde-demo sa kalye. Maraming mga gimmick. Kung sino-sino mga naglalabasa sa kalye. In the same token, we who are against RH would also like to see that kind of public support out there supporting our move against RH para pampalakas ng loob. And one way of doing that is your presence in the House of Representatives during the debate. Malaking bagay po pag nakikita namin halimbawa yung mga Knights of Columbus, yung mga CWL in your very familiar uniform, nagpapalakas ng loob namin yan. Pero pag meron pong debate, tapos mapansin namin na doon sa kabila, napakaraming tao, medyo parang sabi, uy, ano ba to? Talaga bang may suporta kami rito? Ba't kukunti lamang ang sumusuporta sa amin? So ito po isang bagay na sana mapag-usapan gusto at ng mga organizers para lalo mapalakas natin. Nakakatulong mo ito sa ating pagkikipagdebate. And you know, we have an inherent advantage. The CBCP, the Catholic hierarchy, is probably one of the most organized institutions in the country. Probably even more organized than the military and the police organization, because down to the town level ang simbahan. So pagdating sa educational campaign, pagdating sa mobilization, imagine how many parishes are there surrounding the batasan. Ang daming simbahan sa malapit. Magpadala lang kayo ng mga 10 tao bawat isang simbahan, maybe all the churches in the Quezon City area, in Mandaluyong, in San Juan, Caloocan, yung mga malalapit na mga lugar, then we will have a good group of supporters there in the gallery. Yung kabila, hihina ang loob nila pag nakita nila yan. The other one is CWL is very organized. Knights of Columbus, these are long-established institutions that have been very active, and perhaps this is something that we would like to appeal. This is our appeal to you, na medyo i-maximize natin yung advantage natin, our institutional advantages. Knights of Columbus, CWL, Mother Butler, pastoral councils, and those other organizations that can help in mobilizing support also in the educational campaign. You know, we are ready. Kung imbitahin niyo po kami, halimbawa, meron kayong forum na gusto niyo sa inyong simbahan and gusto niyo makatulong para, let's say, some diocese, no? Okay, even simbahan, available po kami, subject to schedule, to be a resource person in the fora that you can establish para magkaroon tayo ng educational campaign on why we should reject the RH bill. So we must maximize this. And finally, of course, a lot of people will be asking, kumusta naman ang numbers? Because at the end of the day, this is going to be a numbers game. If there's going to be a votation, whoever gets the majority will be voted. Pag majority would be against the RH, then RH will be archived. Pag yan ay naboto ng majority during the session, if it would come to that, especially on third reading, then pag sa kabila, meron ding counterpart na bill na na-approve on third reading, then there will be a bicameral conference committee. and it will come to pass as a law. Kaya yan ang dapat ma-prevent natin by mobilizing support. How does it stand right now? Alam nyo, ang bilang namin, it's touch and go. Siguro nung last Congress, pwede sabihin natin na medyo konti ng bahagya yung mga against RH kasi maraming mga tahimik. But you know, I got the surprise of my life when I found out that many young members of the House of Representatives are against RH. In fact, right now, the leaders of the anti-RH movement on the floor, ito yung mga nagbibilang ng mga tao, nagpapamiting, are young members of the House of Representatives. Congressman Amado Bagatsing, Congressman Goles, etc., etc. Pero ngayon, ang daming mga batang mga miyembro ng Kongreso. First-termers who are very active in the fight against RH. Kaya nakakatuwa po na ganyan ang sitwasyon ngayon. Kaya kunting kilos pa. Not only from this audience here, but from the various dioceses all over the country, bishops and archbishops, having a direct dialogue with the respective legislators, lalong gaganda ang bilang natin. At pag gumanda ang bilang, pwede iboto na kagad natin ito para ma-reject na ito. Sa Senate naman, mukhang mas maganda ang laban natin sa Senate. Bakit po? Kasi ang Senate President has announced himself as against RH. The majority leader of the Senate, Senator Tito Soto, is very much against RH also. And you know, these are two very key personalities in the legislative process. Of course, they would like full debate, no? They would not want to be accused of reversing the railroad, of blocking the passage, of blocking the free debate. But it's very important and very critical to have the two key positions, Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile and Majority Leader Tito Soto, as declared anti-RH personalities of the Senate. So yun lang po ang ating status report. I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you the goings on in the House of Representatives with respect to our fight. Ulitin ko, kailangan po natin na ma-maximize natin yung ating napakagandang institutions, the institution of the Catholic Church and the various lay organizations that are allied with the Catholic Church in order to strengthen further the support for the campaign against the RH bill. Maraming salamat po. Ako pong inyong Congressman Paranaque. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Congressman Roy Lagones. Isa pang palakpakan para kay Congressman. Para mas lalong ganahan si Congressman Goles. Thank you for giving us a very comprehensive perspective, your perspective, update and prospects of RH bill. And I understand Congressman Goles is generous enough to entertain some questions from the floor. We have two active microphones in two aisles. If you have questions, queries, comments, before you state that, please give your name and your organization.
Salamat. Saan po yung paris nyo?
Comenbo, Makati.
Malapit
Yeah,
po.
second district of Makati.
Yes, ma'am.
Mirror of Justice Parish.
Tama-tama po dahil yung kongresista nyo ron, medyo... sino pong kongreswoman nyo ron?
Binay.
Medyo pro-RH po siya. Medyo na naman.
Thank you. Any other questions from the floor, please? Mukhang naliwanagan po sila ng gusto, Congressman Goles.
Mahiyain ang mga CWL. Dapat po hindi tayo mahiyain dito sa issue na to.
Meron pong nagtataas ng kamay sa likod. Please approach the microphone.
I come from the Diocese of Caloocan.
Nagsalita na po niyan, twice.
Opo. Ang sinasabi po nila, the sector that will be most benefited of this RH bill are the urban sectors. Ang sabi niyo po kanina, the church can help. Pero I am from the grassroots of the church, no? Pero kung yung mismo nasa church, meron pa ulit ay hindi ko nagbibigay ng paliwanag kung ano ang kahalagahan nito. Kaya ang mga mismo po nandun sa grassroots or the urban poor which I am referring to are not really aware of the consequences that would happen to them. Because ang paliwanag po ng pro-RH bill are different because it's for the total human development, for the total care of women, and for the total care of the child. Pero hindi po nila ibinibigay yung consequences. Ang mahirap po ay hindi rin kami natutulungan ng church. Kung nandoon po kami parati sa Congress, it's because our own organization is always at the helm of every activity against the RH bill. Sana po matulungan kami of those who really would be responsible doon sa aming sa aming church para ma-reach out namin those who really are affected of this bill, which is the urban sector, the poor urban sector of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you po. Alam niyo, maganda yung sinabi niyo, no? Especially the points being used by the pro-RH people. That's precisely what I said kanina, na nilalagyan nila ng sweetener. Sinabi yung maternal health care, wala po tayong, nothing against that. In fact, I promote that. Yung infant health care, again, I promote that. In fact, it's there also, yung kanina binanggit ko, Republic Act 9710, Magna Carta for Women. At kung gusto nila ng mas malakas na maternal health care, dagdagan lang ang budget. Halimbawa, i-subsidize natin yung prenatal care sa Pavilion. Malapit sa iyo sa Caloocan, no? Magkano? 500 pesos yata. Sa halip na 500 pesos, ibaba, i-subsidize ito. Yung 3 billion pesos na gusto nilang gastahin para sa condom and contraceptives, para ipagmudmud sa mga mahihirap daw, na again, subject to the its proneness to graft and corruption, sa halip, i-gastahin yan para ma-improve yung ating mga maternal health care centers. Ayun po. Siguro, maraming bagay kasi minsan, ang gawin natin, tignan natin yung mga issue ng RH at huwag natin kontrahin yung maganda kasi meron mga maganda na nandun na sa Republic Act 9710. All that we have to say, andyan na yan. Hindi na po kailangan yan. It's already in Republic Act 9710. We are not against that. Hindi po porque, kasi ang reproductive health, yun yung reproductive health. Who would go against reproductive health? Reproductive health is good. In the same way that cardiovascular health is good. Di ba, digestive system health is good.
Thank you very much.
Congressman Goles, may I ask some enlightenment? There is a new bill that I have read and I have even encoded it. It's number 42, 44, or 20.
Yan po yung RH bill.
But you mentioned that Congressman Lagman is sponsoring House Bill number 96.
Ipaliwanag ko po, yan yung original. Kasi marami pang mga House bills na inoto ng iba-ibang mga tao. Siguro mga 6-8 of them. Ang ginawa, kinonsolidate ito. After the committee work, this was consolidated, and now the consolidated bill or the substitute bill is House Bill number 4244. Yun po.
So that is now the latest.
Yun po ang latest number.
After the committee hearing.
Opo, after sa committee report, yun na po ang bagong number.
And then, meron po ako itatanong. Sabi nila, they care for the women, for the maternal health. Pero, hindi naman problema ang mga babae eh. Yung mga lalaki ang may problema. Di po ba? Ayaw naman ng babaeng manganak ng marami dahil sila talaga ang nahihirapan. Pero bakit sila ang pahihirapan na uminom ng contraceptives, mag-IUD? Yung mga lalaki wala. Ano kaya ang magaling na amendment dyan? Para yun namang maging, mga lalaki, maging responsable. Pag nalasing, pipilitin yung babae kahit pagod na pagod. Pag maraming anak na, hindi naman nagtatrabaho. Yung mga lalaki po, pag matanda-tanda na, sabi nila midlife crisis, yung babae na ang nagtatrabaho. Sa aming probinsya, nagpapadyak na, nagpipedicab na yung babae dahil yung lalaki ay nahulog sa tulay, nagpadyak. Siya na talaga. In fact, her life story was serialized in feature doon sa Maalaala Mo Kaya. Totoo yun. Siya na talaga, several women na sa amin ang nagpapadya kasi yung mga lalaki, mga inutil na po. So, why don't we work something for the men to become more responsible? Because the women are very protective of their children. They go to Saudi, they do household works for other people. Yun ang dapat na solusyon. Because women, why make them suffer and then have cancer because of the contraceptives? Alam mo po, nakakahilo yung pag-iinom ng contraceptives. Yung sana ang inaantay namin kay Congressman Lagman. Kababayan ko pa naman. Kakahiya. And is it true, Congressman, that the Bicolanos, congressmen are in favor of RH bill?
Halo-halo po yan. Meron mapabor, meron hindi po. Pero sagutin ko po kayo, no? Kung inutil na yung lalaki, hindi wala nang silbi yun. Nakakaanak yun.
Ay, hindi po. Kahit inutil, nagaganap pa rin.
Hindi inutil yun. Ganito yan, no? Meron pong pag-aaral, na kaya bumababa ang ating population growth rate is because of economic forces. The more economically engaged the persons are, babae at lalaki, then the less prone they will be to other activities. Kaya nagkakaroon ng parang natural control sa kanila. Kaya makikita nyo, palit ang average number of children sa mga pamilya, lalo na pag they are economically engaged. Yun po ang dahilan dyan. And they become more aware, yung education nila, natural family planning, naiintindihan nila ng gusto yan. Instead of using the 3 billion pesos to prevent the birth of 200,000 babies, I will use the 3 billion pesos to train 200,000 able-bodied men and women, maybe through TESDA. Marami sa kanila gusto magtrabaho, but they don't have the skills. Pero ilagay niyo sa TESDA yan, mga 3-6 months lang. Lahat sila magkakaroon ng skills that will make them employable here in the Philippines and worldwide. Kasi nakikita sa pag-aaral din na merong mismatch ng qualification at saka mga available work na kailangan ibang qualification. Kaya kailangan po tamang training. Ang TESDA naman, ang ginagamit nila, yung mga ang binibigyan nila ng priority, yung mga training ng mga kailangan. Hindi yung kasi minsan sa atin sa mga pamilya, I remember when I was a young boy at pinag-usapan yung pagpasok sa kolehiyo, marami mga parents, they just want their children to finish college. Basta makatapos lang kasi nakakaya pag hindi matapos. Ang nangyayari tuloy, natapos nga siya, 4-year course, pero yung nakuha namang kurso, mahirap hanapan ng trabaho. So ngayon, nagkakaroon tayo ng better strategy for education and availability of employment.
Yun po ang tama.
Opo.
Sana hindi yan pumasa, nakakainis. At saka, kahit wala ang RH bill, alam ko naman na maraming gumagamit ng contraceptives na mga mag-asawa na hindi pa enlightened. Pero usually, ang loser dyan ay yung babae dahil she suffers most than the men. Yun lang po. Thank you.
Thank you po. Maraming salamat.
Thank you. We can take one more question.
Magandang hapon po sa ating sa aming health center sa Rizal, Makati. Nakita ko po doon sa graph ng health center kung ilan yung pinanganak ng last year. Kalahati lang po yung graph ngayon na nakita ko na ipinanganak. Kaya sabi ko talagang parang nakakaano naman po yung nakaka-disturb din kasi parang ang laki-laki talaga ng baksak ng population growth. At isa po yung parang gusto ko pong mag-suggest sa inyo na kasi nabanggit po ninyo kanina na sabi nyo dito sa Manila napakaraming tao at ito yung parang nagiging focus ng mga pro-RH na napakadami ng tao kaya naghihirap ang mga Pilipino. Pero nakita ko naman po sa lumalabas ako outside Metro Manila, napaka-konti naman po ng tao. At sabi nyo, nagmamigrate sila dito dahil nandito yung trabaho kasi. Marami pong mga taga-probinsya, ayaw naman nilang lumuwas pero wala silang available na trabaho sa probinsya. Kaya ito po yung parang nila, makapagtrabaho sila. Kaya kung ang mga pabrika po ay nasa probinsya, yung mga pagtatrabahuhan nasa probinsya, hindi po magpapakahirap yung mga taga-probinsya para lumuwas ng Maynila para makatrabaho lang. Kaya sabi ko, sana magkaroon ng batas. Wala nang magtatayo ng pabrika dito. Wala nang... Kasi po, kaya dumadami yung mga tao dahil sa trabaho. E di dalhin na lang po lahat yan sa mga probinsya. Ikalat po sa buong bansa para lahat ng mga tao magkaroon ng trabaho sa probinsya. Maraming salamat.
Ang tawag po dyan, industry dispersal. Yan ay ginawa na noong una, pero hindi masyado nag-succeed. Ngayon, ginagawa clustering. Halimbawa, yung Calabarzon, yung Subic, yung Clark, sa may Northern Mindanao. Kina-cluster kasi pag kinluster nyo, mas nako-consolidate yung mga infrastructure requirements like power, transportation. Yan ang kailangan kasi para suportahan yung mga industries. Kasi pag dinisperse nyo ang industry tapos wala namang power supply doon, mag-fail din yan. At saka yung mga businessmen, hindi sila pupunta. But that is another topic, kaya ko lang tinake up dahil pinag-usapan. Ang totoo, kahit na masabi natin na maraming lugar sa Metro Manila, pag pupunta ka napakaraming mga tao, napakaraming mga bata, pero yan example lang. Pero pag tingnan nyo yung kabuuan ng Metro Manila, hindi pa rin ganun karami. At I would like to emphasize, kasi sabi nila, pag maraming populasyon, nakakasama sa ating ekonomiya. But the fact is, it is the supposedly overcrowded cities and towns that are more economically strong. Mas mataas po ang per capita income sa Parañaque, sa Quezon City, sa Makati, sa Mandaluyong, na pinakamataas din ang population density. Ang mga mahihirap, yung mga lugar na mababa ang population density. Hindi na magbabanggit ng mga sa atin po, ang population density here in Metro Manila, it can be 6,000, 10,000 per square kilometer. Meron mga probinsya, ang population density is much less than our average. Ang average kasi natin is about 300 per square kilometer. Pero may mga probinsya, 60, 70,